year people try on mock drafts. Every year everyone gets it completely wrong. It's impossible to do it correctly. But I enjoy it. And as I said earlier, I do these for myself like a loser. I've been doing it for, you know, I don't know, like 10 years, my own personal little mock draft, and I color coded and everything. I just enjoy the aesthetic of it. Even in a Google Doc like this.
Scrapbooking.
It's just so I'm a loser.
No, this is my like ideal activity.
It's just I mean, I like smoke a joint, Friday night in, watch some TV, play around with color coding my mock draft on my computer. I mean, like that's ideal for me, okay?
During draft time, I'm always like, what like film am I gonna watch today?
Yeah.
Like what players?
Oh,
am
I
gonna watch?
grind it a little bit over the weekend.
Yeah.
So this now I actually have like a legitimate reason to put this together because I have a sports podcast. So here we go. We're gonna go through this here. This is my little Google Doc. Let's zoom in here. So I got this is and also we can see you a little bit on the corner. So just full screen it. So we can make it look as aesthetically pleasing as possible. Given the fact that this is done, yes, in a Google Doc. We don't have the highest level of graphics here, aka I send a doc to Bradley and he puts it up on the screen. But here's what I have for the first 8 picks. Now, I'll just say generally, I think that this is a solid draft in terms of, like, there's going to be a lot of starters that come out of the first round. But from a high-end talent perspective, it's a bit slim pickings, more so than other years. Even in the quarterback position, in my opinion, there's one blue-chip quarterback prospect, and he's the guy that's falling, and that's CJ Stroud. Inexplicably, it seems that there's some concerns about his character, which I don't really take that seriously, frankly. I was reminded of how Aaron Rodgers fell in the draft that he was in to the end of the first round so the Packers could take him. Alex Smith went first overall, and that was all about coachability. Well, look who ended up being the better player.
Yeah,
okay?
and also just as another thing too, like when we talk about quarterback evaluation, like who was the last pick in the 2018 draft, right? It was Lamar Jackson.
It's the same kind of stuff. And I was saying I love Lamar and Josh Allen in that draft.
Yeah, and
to
look
be
what
honest,
happens.
I've kind of like hung my NFL expertise on that. I mean, I did also like Josh Rosen in that draft, but I kind of leave that to the side.
Oh, but we don't talk about
Not
that.
as much as those two guys, though, I swear. But anyway, no one knows. It's a crapshoot. However, the Carolina
really
Panthers are definitely selecting Bryce Young. All the betting markets have moved. He's the overwhelming favorite. It seems like they've essentially told a bunch of people, and they've revealed that to the media. So Bryce Young is going to be the first overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. I don't understand that fully. I would not take a quarterback with his size concerns that high and give up assets to do so. I would take CJ Stroud in a heartbeat, but I don't know everything. Like the NFL, if there might be real concerns about his processing speed. For me, it's like you have a guy in Frank Reich who has coached a lot of quarterbacks. Rely on your coaching staff to get that out of him. Because as a passer, like CJ Stroud's release, his arm strength, his vision on the field, I feel like it's obvious. Bryce Young, clearly, really, really smart guy. I think that's why he's getting all this buzz. Bryce Young's coachability, his character, all of that. I just think that when you're taking someone first overall, you go on physical traits and then rely on your coaching staff. That's just what I believe.
Yeah, I was gonna say from I think both of us agree in terms of like how we view this stuff. Just like from personal preference, like I would not be willing to take a guy with Bryce Young's frame.
I wouldn't.
Just like I'm not disputing his talent level or his processing speed or anything like that. It's just like pure durability purposes. I would not feel comfortable having that be the future of my franchise.
I have my skepticism about the point guardification of the quarterback position, which a lot of coaches seem to be sold on. I just think, sure, you can play it like a point guard until you get hit and you're out for the season because you're too small. So that's a part of the issue. But it seems like Bryce Young's going to go first overall. I'm buying what the books are saying here too, and I think Tyree Wilson will go second overall to the Houston Texans. It's not going to be Will Anderson. I think Will Anderson's going to fall because he's also another guy that very coachable from Alabama, but I don't think his physical traits are that of Tyree Wilson or even Lucas Van Ness, who I have going much higher than other mocks. That's maybe a more controversial pick of mine.
I think some teams might see Anderson, despite his pretty, like, I think he's a safe pick because of how kind of like snap by snap, I think he's a very, very clear-cut, effective player. Like, you know what you're going to get from him.
Pick.
But he, exactly, in the sense of, like, you know exactly kind of what you're going to get from Anderson. I just don't think I don't necessarily know if there's an enormous amount of upside with picking him.
So I think that DeMeco Ryans knows his pass rushers, and Tyree
likes
Wilson,
the long levered guys.
Tyree Wilson has the physical traits to be a superstar. DeMeco Ryans is going to want his Nick Bosa, and that's why I think they're going to take him. And they know him; they've scouted him. Their hometown or Texas guy essentially, so they've been able to see him in person a lot. So I'm thinking that the Texans go, especially since they don't seem to like C.J. Stroud and are coveting Will Levis, they're going to go Tyree Wilson second overall. Now I have a trade here. I'm picking the Atlanta Falcons to trade with the Arizona Cardinals, swapping first, and then Atlanta kind of getting a little desperate towards the end of the run, potentially, of a coaching staff. And I also think they're sneakily talented and need to start winning soon. They've laid a really good foundation. I have Atlanta trading up with Arizona to get C.J. Stroud ahead of the Indianapolis Colts.
I like that. I like
Anthony
this.
Richardson.
I like this as a
possible
trade, only because, one, if it's the case that the Texans do not pick a quarterback and pick Wilson, I mean, I guess the Cardinals could stay put and just draft Will Anderson, but like I don't necessarily know what that would accomplish for them all that much because all they have is linebackers on their team.
Yeah,
basically.
They need real like blue chip guys that are not
and honestly just bodies. Like if anything, I would think they would want to trade 3 just to get draft capital to just draft more capable players.
Yes,
and they don't need it. And they signed Kyler to a monster deal. They don't need a quarterback. Mm-hmm. They kind of can't need a quarterback.
Yeah.
So I think this would totally make sense, and I would be absolutely salivating at the prospect of C.J. Stroud getting snapped the ball from Chris Lindstrom, throwing to Kyle Pitts and Drake London.
Oh, yeah.
And
the Falcons' offensive line
Collins.
Is sneaky good. And Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, Kyle Pitts, Drake London.
Did you say Kyle Pitts?
Yeah,
sorry.
No, that's okay. There was there's one other guy I was thinking of who I mean, Matt Collins they just signed, which I think was also a good signing.
They took the kid out of USC in the first round last year. I'm totally blanking.
Drake London?
Drake London. Did you say that too?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was distracted for a second.
London, Pitts, and there's one other guy, but they signed Matt Collins from the Raiders, who I think is also going to be a
little underrated. Yeah. So I have CJ Stroud. I mean, who knows?
And Arthur Smith is a good play caller.
Yes.
It would honestly be fun to see him with a young, high-powered offense.
I'm just not buying the we're going with
best player available at 3 for the Cardinals. Like, get more picks.
I'm not buying that the Falcons are gonna stick with Desmond Ridder.
Oh yeah, I hear you. Yeah,
I think that's a smokescreen. So I do think they're gonna try to make a play for a quarterback. The Colts, Anthony Richardson going to that Philadelphia Eagles offensive system could be really exciting, and I think the Colts are taking a quarterback no matter what, kind of different situation than the Texans. Richardson, of course, upside is phenomenal. It's just you have to have the right coach, and hopefully the offensive staff that they have in place there is going to make a difference. Now, I have the Seattle Seahawks taking potentially best player in the entire draft, Jalen Carter, who has some character concerns. Obviously, he was allegedly drag racing. Someone died. Then he had a workout soon after, which was a bizarre choice by his agent. After he had like a friend die, to have him work out for teams like days later, and he was overweight, I guess, and didn't perform as well. But the tape, it doesn't lie. Jalen Carter's arguably, I don't think it's arguable. He's the best player in the draft.
I was just gonna say, I think like just purely by like upside, build, tape, he's the best player in the draft.
And as a defensive coach, Pete Carroll's going to be salivating, and Pete Carroll has a lot of confidence in his ability to get guys on the team and kind of make sure that if they have some character struggles or if they've lost their way a little bit, he has confidence in his coaching.
And just the thought of Jalen Carter and Draymond Jones, who they just signed from the Broncos, on the interior, then still having Chenna Nwosu, who they just drafted last year, Bam Mafe, like the Seahawks overperformed last year, and honestly, they pick Carter, like this would be the beginnings of a new, like, really solid, fun defense.
And the
in
Seahawks
Seattle.
have needed a real run stopper for a while.
Oh,
a
absolutely.
superstar. And the interior pass rusher position is becoming more and more valuable. You're seeing these big contracts go out. Eventually, Quinnen Williams and Dexter Lawrence are going to get big contracts. But Daron Payne just got a big contract from Washington as well. Like, these, as the quick game becomes bigger and more integrated into the NFL, the guys that can get right up the middle really quickly as opposed to coming around the edge, which takes a little longer, they're getting more value. And so this is not, in past years, you'd be like, you can't take a defensive lineman that early. You can now. It's okay. So Jalen Carter to the Seahawks, I think they'll be thrilled. I have 2 corners going back to back. You could probably flip them. I just think that Devin Witherspoon, who's a psycho tackler,
I love watching him.
Yeah, he plays with such tenacity.
He's a nutcase.
He's much more of a Dan Campbell guy than the
he's a hard-nosed guy.
Than the kind of shy, sweet Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon.
Gonzalez, I think, might just be more of a prototypical corner and more of like a pro-ready, like just kind of like in terms of size, speed, that type of thing.
He has every measurable.
I did just think right. He's sort of just built in a lab to play corner. But Witherspoon, I just think, has that real physicality and
yes,
like, not it's overused at this point, but he really does have that dog in him.
Yeah, he does have that dog in him.
He really does.
So I have Witherspoon going to the Lions, which they should be thrilled about. I would say definitely an upgrade from Okudah, who I didn't like coming out in the draft,
and who's now on the Falcons.
Who's now on the Falcons.
Yeah,
needed a fresh start. So I have him going to the Lions, and the Raiders taking Gonzalez, which I'm sure they'd be happy with as well.
For sure.
This is my first.
They need secondary help. Yeah.
I think that Lucas Van Ness is getting underrated. He's not a bendy guy. He's strong and he's versatile. And I think that the Cardinals, after trading down, are going to look for a safe blue chip prospect. Lucas Van Ness is a very safe player to draft.
I feel like some of the knock on him is he just doesn't have like a enormous suite of like pass rush moves yet, but I would bet on the ferocity with which he plays, the intensity with which he plays, the strength that he has. I mean, if you go and watch some of the reps he had against someone who I imagine will be on this board later on, Paris Johnson from Ohio State, he had some reps where he was almost putting Paris Johnson, who's a big guy who's light in his feet, in CJ Stroud's lap last year. Like Van Ness is I think a good to great prospect for a defensive end, and I think as we've been saying with the Cardinals, they just need all the talent they can get. Yeah. Pick them. Why not?
I think they just need somebody who's gonna be solid for them. And then they get that extra first rounder. Now you want to go to this second page here on this incredibly well done graphic. All right, let's stop here. I'm doing this in groups of 8, even though there's only 31 picks in the first round this year because the damn Dolphins lost their pick for tampering with Tom Brady.
I saw it before and I was like, wait, are we missing one?
No, we are not. Chicago Bears traded down with the Carolina Panthers for that boatload of picks. I have them taking Broderick Jones, offensive tackle out of Georgia. Now, there's a few tackles that could go here. I could see them going with Darnell Wright, who's a road grader who I have going to the Tennessee Titans at 16, with them trading down. We'll get to that in a second.
I freaking love Darnell Wright.
Yeah, that Tennessee offense is an interesting kind of watch. But.
I feel similarly for some of these line prospects where I'm like, I think Darnell Wright, Broderick Jones, even I guess a little bit further down, not potentially in the first round, DeJuan Jones at Ohio State. I bet I'm always like a Planet Theory subscriber where I'm like, and same thing with also Osiris Torrance from Florida. Like, if these guys are big enough and get in the right situation, like long, big, like have good hands, like I just think there's a way to mold these guys into really good players.
Yeah. And Georgia, he's faced the best of the best. I could see the Bears being like, let's go with a safe, prospect at
like
the tackle
championship
position.
Caliber guy.
Yeah, who's seen a lot of really elite talent in the SEC. So interchangeable really, but I think they're going to go offensive line there and not go with someone like Peter Skoronski, who I think will fall a little bit. I don't think he's going in the top 10 because he might he sees himself as a tackle, but that's just not going to happen in the NFL. he's going to be an interior offensive lineman. So I have him falling to the Jets at 15.
I think Skoronski's sort of in a lot of big boards been the number one offensive lineman, mostly because I think one, his versatility, and two, that he's to me is almost like the Will Anderson for the offensive line, in that I just think you can't really go wrong with him. He's going to give you pretty consistent play. But I kind of, for me at least, just in terms of the physical profiles I like with some of these guys like Jones, Wright, Torrance, I don't know. I think the upside for some of these guys is a little bit higher than a guy like Skoronski.
Yeah,
I would be thrilled if Skoronski fell this far. By the way, though, I will say.
Well, I think tackles are going to be premium as opposed to an interior lineman. So that's why I think he won't. So Broderick Jones, I have him going the Chicago Bears. I have Will Anderson falling to the Eagles, and then they just take. This is a luxury pick for them. They take best player available.
Oh God, this would actually piss me off if I'm going to be honest.
Well, I think that there's a lot of rumors they're going to go Bijan Robinson there, and I'm like,
even that also would piss me off.
Yeah, but it's just guys like
get a top 5 talent because no one's going to pick a fucking running back.
Well, they have the ability to do it.
100%, absolutely.
Because this is because the New Orleans Saints are idiots and traded this pick to them last year for God knows what reason, so they could have an extra pick in that draft for no reason. They're not close to contending. Anyway, I'm just mad about it as a Giants fan. But I have Will Anderson going there, rounding out the top 10. Now another trade. I have the Commanders trading up with the Tennessee Titans, who are reportedly not in love with any of the quarterbacks in this draft. Tennessee getting the Washington Commanders' second round pick as well, to move down 5 spots. That might be a little rich, but hey, look, I'm just doing this for fun, basically. Hendon Hooker. I think he's going to go in the middle of the first round.
Which I think personally would be insane, but it's probably. But I mean, every team is a bloodlust for quarterbacks in the draft.
This is not what I would do. This is what I think is going to happen.
Oh yeah, of course. The
quarterbacks always get overinflated.
And if the Commanders are going to pick a quarterback, they're going to pick the guy with extensive injury history who's going to be 25 come week 1 of the NFL season.
I think it might be 26.
Yeah, he might be 26. He's really old. This is like Brandon Whedon stuff.
He was a COVID year, right?
Yes,
so
he had the COVID red shirt.
You give him some grace for that. And before he tore his ACL, look, he was a Heisman candidate, Hendon Hooker. And I find the Tennessee offense, the kind of ultra spread stuff, to be a little ticky-tack. And you wonder how that translates to the NFL. But everything else from Hendon Hooker seems really solid, and he seems like a total pro. So I could totally see the Commanders taking a swing on him.
Before he got injured, he basically had like a near Heisman caliber season last year. I think it's more. I think I could see it for them in terms of maybe just wanting a guy that they think could just start right away. But I think it would be a little rich for the 11th pick in the sense of just his age. But,
well, yeah, but we'll see. I hear you.
But teams exponentially overinflate the quarterback grades, even in a year when the quarterbacks are bad.
This team doesn't have a 2nd or 3rd round pick next year, I believe.
Right, they're not going to
because of the Carson Wentz trade.
Exactly. If they want to get a quarterback of the future, they may just have to do it now. Do it this year.
So I that's just a guess, because they would want to get in front of the Texans, who I still think are going to select Will Levis anyway.
Interesting. Okay, that's interesting.
Will Levis scares me. I mean, he has high end arm talent, but man, does the decision making make no sense. This entire year.
He's like a trick shot quarterback almost, in the sense like he kind
of just seems like, I hesitate to say this, but like a little dense. He can throw
a beautiful ball, but
not consistently.
But he doesn't. But also not only not consistently. I sometimes don't even think he necessarily knows where the ball is going.
Yeah. So that's just my guess, is that those 4 quarterbacks are gone.
It can't be expressed enough. He also eats bananas with the peel on,
or 5.
Will Levis also eats bananas with the peel on and puts mayonnaise in his coffee.
Yes.
He's a real sicko.
That should be number 1 on the schedule.
I actually that should probably drop him 3 to 4 rounds, in my opinion.
Well, and then the Green Bay Packers just traded with the Jets. I updated this doc here. Aaron Rodgers, they flip picks essentially, so the Green Bay Packers move up 2 slots in the first round. I have them taking Nolan Smith out of Georgia. They seem to just love these kinds of outside linebacker types, and they love these great programs for when they beef up their defense, and the Packers just go defense in the first round. That's just something that they always do. So I have them taking Nolan Smith, who has a ton of upside, and if he's slotting in a defense that already does have some talent, he can make more of a difference than if you have to rely on him to be, say, your like number one pass rusher or something like that. I also have the New England Patriots reaching for Deonte Banks in some like mock estimations. That's a reach, but I love Deonte Banks. I want the Giants to take Deonte Banks if he falls to them, but I don't think he will because I think he's a really great all-around corner. I think he's going to be a riser in the draft. I think he's clearly the number 3 corner in this draft. He doesn't seem like he's elite at anything, but he is like a prototypical corner that you might want.
I was gonna say it's a similar thing in terms of like measurables he has. I just think, like you said, it's just.
And Maryland has one of these guys every year where you're or a few of them where you just go, wow, the scouting on them and the recruiting on them was really good. And I could see the Deonte Banks being someone that Bill Belichick says I would love to have him in my backfield.
And the Patriots,
or not my backfield,
and the Patriots, regardless of position, usually routinely overdraft people because their board traditionally is much smaller in the sense that they
eliminate a lot of guys.
They're basically like, we have like 3 rounds of guys and we are going to take them basically regardless of where they are in the draft. I mean, when they took Cole Strange out of Chattanooga last year, no one had that guy in the first round last year.
He looked okay.
And honestly, he, to their credit, he played pretty capably during the time he had in New England last year. But it's just interesting, like their evaluations usually are much different than other teams' evaluations.
Yeah.
They really march to the beat of their own drummer.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't even think this is a reach for Deonte Banks. I like him a lot.
No, he's good. He's for sure. But I'm even thinking, for example, like, N'Keal Harry, when they drafted N'Keal Harry was an overdraft. Quan Thornton when they drafted. Like they do this sometimes, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it is
frankly, this might be too by the book for the Patriots. But
it's the Patriot way.
Peter Skoronski, there you go, Bradley, for an interior offensive line. The Jets need to beef up that line. I'm banking that they are hopeful that Mekhi Becton can return and have some success. So they're not going to go tackle here.
But I will say, sorry to interrupt you, Emma, but that's to me the only position where Planet Theory goes wrong is that Becton literally was probably the most measurably like imposing guy in that draft with Wirfs, Jedrick Wills, and Andrew Thomas, but because of his size and his durability, he just can't stay healthy. And Andrew Thomas ultimately is looking like absolutely potentially the best pick in that draft from those 4 guys.
I think so. I mean, look, I thought Wirfs was very overrated in his first season, but Andrew Thomas,
he's been playing well.
Okay,
but Thomas is already looking like now basically an elite left tackle. I mean, which is like also
top 5 left tackle in the league, easy.
and the top and at the top tier of positional positions.
He's about to get paid.
Line. Oh yeah. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
But good for him. We love the guy.
I love Darnell Wright going to the Tennessee Titans.
Love him.
I have them like look. Who knows? But they scouted him, hometown guy, or at least home school guy, and Darnell Wright might be the most talented tackle in the whole draft.
There is a clip of him where some of the guys that I follow on Twitter, Derek Klassen, who's a good follow for line play, and Brandon Thorne, who does the Trench Warfare newsletter on Substack. One of them, I think, tweeted this play where Wright goes into his stance after the snap and basically backpedals with 1 foot. And it's like the guy's like 330.
Yeah.
And he's backpedaling capably with 1 foot.
Oh yeah.
Like he's an athletic freak.
I would not be surprised if he went 9 to the
right.
The Bears.
I think he could even get overdraft get further up. But the Titans, if this fell to them, I mean, the Titans need all the offensive line help they can get.
They really do. They need to start rebuilding. And then the Steelers are up next. So we'll scroll down. That's good. I have the Steelers taking the next offensive tackle off the board, Paris Johnson,
which I also think would be a good pick for them if this guy fell to them. He's pretty prototypical too. Great mover in space, good body type.
The tackles are not overwhelmingly exciting this year, but there's those 3 guys are solid. Those 3 guys are solid that I think are going to be first round picks. Paris Johnson, Darnell Wright, and Jones out of Georgia. So I have the Steelers taking Paris Johnson. I have the Lions taking tight end Dalton Kincaid.
I think this
which
would be
is a very popular pick. I mean, come on. Tight end head coach Dan Campbell wants to take this guy who I think is definitely the better tight end of the 2 that are projected to go into the first round. Michael Mayer doesn't have the athletic upside that I see from Dalton Kincaid.
And Mayer, I think you'd want where he's not going to be the entirely. You want Mayer if he's going to not primarily, but have kind of, I would say, a 50-50 diet of like inline blocking and then going out into space and making tough catches because he has a pretty good catch radius. Kincaid is a more offense first tight end, I'd say. He's not as nearly as, I think, effective as a blocker, but I think the Lions have a great offensive line. They might not necessarily need him to do that much. And with Goff or whoever they ultimately might get as at quarterback, whatever the case may be, he is going to be a very nice weapon to slot in aside Amon-Ra St. Brown and
Jameson
Williams once he's back from suspension and things like that. So
yeah.
I think this would be a real shot in the arm for the Lions offense alongside their great offensive line, great pass catching options. I think it would be a great fit for him for Kincaid.
Yeah, and tight ends typically they need a year or so. But that's okay because there's not a ton of pressure on him in the offense like there was with, say, Kyle Pitts.
Right, absolutely.
He has time to grow because there's so much other good stuff happening in that Lions offense.
And like you said, like he can also have the benefit of not needing to be like, oh, like you need to be our sixth offensive lineman right now because we can't block anybody. Like they have a great offensive line, they'll be fine.
And then another offensive lineman, the second guard off the board or interior offensive lineman, Osiris Torrance out of Florida. Solid guard. I just think that the Bucs need to replenish their trenches and start their rebuild process, and doing so with your offensive line is the best way to go.
Yeah, and they're, Ryan Jensen had injury concerns last year.
Yeah.
Donovan Smith did as well. Ali Marpet retired. Like they
lost a bunch of guys to free agency the year prior, so it's time to...
Yes, right, Alex Kappa.
Alex Kappa went to the Bengals, so... That's what I have there. I mean, totally. I have no idea what the Bucs are going to do. They're in a weird position, but that seems like a safe pick for them.
Just to get good players.
Get good players.
We're in the post Brady era. Just get good guys. Get good young guys
rebuilding.
On the team. Yeah.
Joey Porter, cornerback out of Penn State, going to the Seahawks. He's a physical corner, outside guy. I could see another
Nepo baby.
Another. Oh yeah, I could see another. That'd be another thing where. Pete Carroll falls in love with him.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a guy. He's like Danny Kelly, who also does a great draft guide for the Ringer. He does sometimes fun player comps, and his for Joey Porter Jr. was basically like if Joey Porter was a quarterback, if Joey Porter was a Joey Porter was a cornerback, like just like physical aggressive play style, good length, like had decent production in college. I think this is totally a Seattle player.
Yeah,
I could totally see this being a good fit for him. If I guess he doesn't go earlier than this, because it's there. I feel like there are some mocks. I feel like Porter and Gonzalez sort of flip flop with what people like about them. Even though I kind of think Gonzalez is definitely.
But I would prefer a speedier, more physical. Like the length corner. It's getting a little. It's not as in vogue anymore because you have all these receivers that that don't look like. T. Higgins. They're guys that are smaller and
can you guard Tyreek Hill?
Right.
Can you guard Jalen Waddle?
And neither Christian Gonzalez can't, Joey Porter can't, Devin Witherspoon can. That's why I would take Witherspoon over any of these
because of the speed and the physicality to make a guy like Tyreek or make a guy like Waddle uncomfortable in their routes.
Yeah, because he might get out physicaled by a bigger receiver, but I would rather that happen than you have no one that can run with a speed guy on your team.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Although Gonzalez has some good speed.
But that's also why Tariq Woolen is such a unicorn because he is sort of the length big corner, but he runs like a 4.4. So like that's also why Joey Porter Jr. and Tariq Woolen as the future of the Seattle secondary would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Carroll knows how to coach these guys. So I have the Chargers taking the first receiver off the board. I've been seeing him compared to Antonio Brown, Zay Flowers. I mean, that's high praise, but he's really the only blue chip receiver that I see in this draft because I then have after that the Buffalo Bills trading up, which apparently they're trying to do with the Baltimore Ravens to get Jackson Smith and Jigba out of Ohio State. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba. I worry a little bit about some of the injury stuff.
Yeah, and with these guys, or at least a few of the top tier wide receivers in this class. My issue with some of these guys, Flowers, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison out of Pitt, is it seems like the slot guys or even potentially slot only guys are almost getting like the height and weight profile seems to continue to get almost like smaller and smaller to the point where I feel like it's hard for me to see a path for these guys to make an impact outside of the slot, which I feel like is so crucial now when you're picking a wide receiver in the first round to hope that they have further latitude outside of the slot. But I will say
I think Zay Flowers can. I think Zay Flowers has the talent to do it, even despite his size.
But that's fair but I also think for a pick like this, what team is more desperate for some semblance of offensive explosiveness and speed than the Chargers? They just need a guy who can actually run. They need a guy who can actually get out in space and turn the burners on and go for some yak. None of the guys on this Chargers team have that profile right now.
They're all size guys.
They're all size guys. They're all size guys. Run route, turn around, stand, plant feet, get the ball.
Keenan Allen's in the slot, but like Keenan Allen's not getting any younger, and he wasn't ever that fast to begin with.
He's not giving you yak. He's definitely not giving you yak.
Yeah.
And neither are any of the tight ends. No, you're not getting that from freaking Gerald Everett and Xander Horvath.
Yeah. So I mean, the Chargers fans should be very happy if they get Zay Flowers. I think also everything you hear about him too is he's just like the best guy. So I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of in love with Zay Flowers. I would not be upset if the Giants took him, even though they don't have any receivers that are big. It's just like this. If this is becoming a bit more of a space game,
and I feel
Flowers
like
is perfect for that.
I feel like it is.
But for the Chargers, it's literally like the most desperate need on their offense.
It's a dire need.
I'm disgusted by like the lack of speed on that wide receiving core. So
and I sort of feel
Flowers
like
would change a lot.
And I sort of feel like it's a need for the Bills too, because like if anything, like it would probably be nice if JSN could be an upgrade for them from like Isaiah McKenzie, who left to who signed with the Colts, I think.
The Bills need another playmaker.
Totally.
I mean,
without question.
Gabe Davis has been a disappointment. He is not a speedy receiver by any means.
No.
They also need speed. Like
100%.
Stephon Diggs is fast, but he's getting a little older, and he's
like a sleek route runner. Like that's it's precision for him.
Exactly.
Yeah, you want a guy who like JSN is also to his credit a great route runner, but you want the speed aspect.
Shiftier.
You want the speed aspect too, the shiftiness aspect.
I have those are my only two first round wide receivers. Only two I'd take in the first round. Only two I think we'll get to. I think we're 3 and less. I mean, I don't know what the line is.
I'm wondering if Addison
maybe taken in the first. Yeah.
I'm wondering if Addison maybe does, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe. I just couldn't see a fit and a team.
Yeah.
I feel like teams are going to try, since this isn't the most high end talent draft. I think they're going to try to get some of these blue chip guys that can be solid starters for your team later in the draft.
Totally.
Which is why I have here the Minnesota Vikings taking Kalijah Kancey, who is undersized defensive lineman. I totally get why people are a little bit hesitant with him, because he's only 6 feet and he's only 280 pounds and he plays defensive tackle. However, his pass rush ability is, you see it on the screen, it's obvious, and it's another undersized pass rusher coming out of Pitt. Like Aaron Donald, it's unfair to call Kalijah Kancey Aaron Donald, but they know what they're doing in scouting those guys.
But check out Kalijah Kancey's combine.
Yeah,
this guy is a real athlete for his size.
Mm-hmm.
He ran like a 4.4 40 or something like that. Like he's a super athletic guy. I think this is someone who can be really coached up to be a real high impact player.
And that's what the Vikings really need on defense. Somebody who's going to make an impact.
And hopefully, ideally, if Andrew Booth and Lewis Cine, the guys they got in the draft last year, both had injury issues all of last year, can come back healthy as well, there can be a little bit more youth infused to this defense that could sorely use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then Brian Bresee out of Clemson. I just want the Jaguars to continue to beef up their offensive line, or defensive line, I should say. I wasn't really sure what to do with them there, so I went with Brian Bresee, who's a pretty safe pick, defensive lineman out of Clemson. All right, let's go to the final part of this mock here. Send us an IM at Majority, or on the Majority Report app if you're a member. Let me know what you think of the mock. I have at 25 the New York Giants taking Will McDonald, the 4th out of Iowa State, who's a pass rusher. Maybe this is hopeful. I think he could also be a riser. Check out Will McDonald's tape if you guys are bored. I think he's a real sleeper pass rusher in this draft. Big fan.
Interesting you have him before Miles Murphy.
Yeah, I think I don't know why I'm not in love with Miles Murphy.
He's, I mean, the thing with him is I think
I could have flipped these two guys.
But I think some people have said this too, is that, he's not necessarily a splashy prospect. He's one of those guys that I think does a lot of things well, a lot of things right, is a pretty consistent down in, down out player.
And I have the Cowboys taking him if you guys are listening on the podcast.
But maybe not like super like electric, like game shifting guy.
I could see Wink Martindale just liking the ferocity with which Will McDonald plays his position. I think he's getting a little underrated because he's coming from Iowa State as opposed to Miles Murphy coming out of Clemson, where I think he's getting a little overrated based on what I've seen. I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm just using my gut.
But yes, he's definitely higher up on, I think, a lot of people's big boards in terms of edge players. For sure. Yeah.
So I have the Giants taking Will McDonald. I think their bigger need is corner, but as I said, I think that the kid out of Maryland is going to rise on. That's Joey Porter's gone, and Deontay Banks is gone. Do I think that there's another corner that's really worth it at the end of the first round? I don't know. And this is when you start to see teams towards the end just say, we're taking one of our guys because the high end cream of the crop is already gone.
And I think to a degree, we're seeing more and more that I think late firsts, early seconds are kind of interchangeable.
Yeah.
Like if you like somebody who's still on the board,
unless you want the 5th-year option, which is why the Ravens, maybe in my mock, traded back in for Lamar Jackson. God forbid they took him in the 2nd round and they had to deal with these contract negotiations a year earlier. But
that's a great point though, because I think that's the consideration. I guess in terms of maybe like a talent gap, it's probably not that large.
No, definitely, as you say. However, though, I have the Ravens. This is why I'm in my mock. I'm also going to bank on the Ravens doing something smart because that's what they do. The Baltimore Ravens.
And 27 for Bijan would be such a steal. Well, I mean, they have a few. Obviously, they've tried first round running backs, J.K. Dobbins. I mean, they have Gus Edwards still, but like.
This would be a game changer.
This is the best player available. Get Bijan Robinson, because Bijan Robinson. If running backs were even nearly as valued in this league as they were like 20 years ago, Bijan Robinson would have been a top 10 pick.
Well,
he's like the I feel like we kind of agree. He's probably the best running back prospect since Saquon.
Yeah, and it's definitely and I think there's a lot of similarities to their game, except Bijan Robinson might be a more talented pass catcher. They spoke to the Texas head coach, whose name I'm blanking on. Right
Steve Sarkisian.
Sarkisian, yeah, and Sarkisian was saying that he had the best hands on the team.
With receivers, tight ends like crazy.
We're about to see this converge. Like receivers who would have been running backs, like say Deebo Samuel, for example,
right,
coming into the league because they know they can make more money as wide receivers. Bijan Robinson's in that gap before the running back talent drain is about to start to happen. And he kind of plays the position in a way where he can be a great runner in space, but he also can catch passes. And for the Ravens who are run-based but do want to expand their pass-catching abilities, this is the best player available. They're going to try to go all in on this year to get Lamar to sign long-term, I think. And hopefully he gets lured back by Odell Beckham's presence. That's a real pass catching option for him.
I think that I feel like me and you are sort of aligned on that too, where I think like I do feel like it's going to be that way.
Yeah,
that it's
going to be a team that takes Bijan Robinson, who feels they're one player away. And the Ravens almost went to the AFC Championship. We forget that they were on the goal line. If it weren't for a fumble by Tyler Huntley and then a run back by Sam Hubbard, they could have gone to the AFC Championship. Did I say NFC? AFC Championship. Like,
and think about
they're very talented on defense too.
And think about the receiving core now. I mean, say this happens. Say let's think about it in terms of they do draft Bijan Robinson. It's Lamar and Lamar resigns. We're all theoretical stuff. So it's Lamar at quarterback, Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, Nelson Aguilar, and
Lamar, and then that defense.
I mean, that to me is like you said, if they're building off being basically a play away, a fumble return away from the AFC Championship game, like this will only be further exemplifying that this will be enough talent for them to be, if they were able to be talented enough with Tyler Huntley to almost win that game. Imagine what they are at full strength with Lamar and OBJ, those supporting cast, and then a top 5 talent in this draft.
Yeah, so
in the backfield.
I love the Ravens, so it's kind of wish fulfillment for me. But I just could see them saying, "Hey,
sorry, in the wild card, but almost beating the Bengals in the wild card round."
But I could just totally see them saying, "Okay, this is a market kind of." This has gone too far. He's fallen too far for us. We need to get a weapon on the offensive side of the ball,
yes,
and he's
one
by
team's
far the
got
best.
to do it. I think one team's got to.
And you guys, you don't need to re-sign Bijan Robinson. You just don't need to. You could go all in with him for 4 or 5 years and then be done.
Someone else will. Someone else will take him.
Yeah.
We'll sign him for sure.
So I mean, and I again, running backs need to start thinking about striking, but to get to circumvent this horrific market. But I could see Bijan Robinson going to a team like the Ravens that's more ready to win now. I could also see him going to the Bengals, but I have them in this mock taking Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. Solid tight end.
Would be a great pick. Hayden Hurst is on the Panthers
now.
now.
Why can't Hayden Hurst get a long-term contract? I don't understand it.
And especially after his Bengals tenure, he played really well for them. He was a real release valve for Joe Burrow when he needed someone over the middle.
Yeah.
I think whoever the Panthers draft will benefit greatly from having Hurst, but I think Mayer would be a great substitution for that Bengals offense if he does fall to 20 to 28. Yeah.
Then I have the Saints taking Anton Harrison, tackle. Again, the Saints for some reason traded their first round pick. They should be picking 10th overall, but they have the Saints pick. And I have them taking Anton Harrison.
The Niners pick.
Or sorry, the Niners pick. The Saints do. I have them taking Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma, tackle. Philadelphia Eagles going with best player available potentially. I don't think there's going to be more than one safety that goes in the first round, but I have them taking Brian Branch out of Alabama.
Wow, this draft would really piss me off.
Yeah.
If this happens. If they get Will Anderson and Brian Branch,
well, I mean,
two of the best Alabama players in this draft.
When I'm also making predictions, I'm thinking of the Eagles doing the smart thing, which is what happens.
Absolutely fair.
And then I just have the Chiefs taking Mazi Smith, defensive lineman out of Michigan, another defensive piece for them. I mean, look. Like
the Chiefs is almost cosmetic at this point.
And Chris Jones is still the man, but he needs to take some snaps off, and so they got to get some depth at that position.
Pair him with Karlaftis, get a few more reps.
Karlaftis is going to have a breakout year this year. I feel that way.
I really hope so.
He really came on at the end of the year.
100%. He played and honestly played pretty well throughout the playoffs. It would be nice, And I think you're right totally in the sense of continue to layer the depth on the line.
Yeah.
He, like you said, Chris Jones maybe one of, if not the best, close to the best interior defensive lineman. But like you said, not getting any younger. Give him more time so he can rest up / gear up for the playoffs. So totally,
I
like this mock, Emma.
All right, well we're done with it then. So thank you. Appreciate that. I thought it through.
We should totally fact check this once the draft happens.
None of it's gonna stand except for.
But that's what's fun about
overall.
This because truly, it's such a crapshoot. This stuff.
Yeah.
It's a crapshoot who gets picked where. It's a crapshoot who trades. It's a crapshoot who ends up playing well. All of it.
Yeah.
It's just fun to speculate. It's fun to prognosticate.
Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. That's what YouTubers say, right?
Oh yeah, let me know in the comments.
Section below.
Sound off in the comments.